Oh, me, yeah.
Coach, you can start because that sure wasn't fair.
Yeah, we're going to have some next 2 years. There's going to be some long trips there, but we get the longest one out of the way this year. So I'll be honest with you, I had to look up. I didn't know where Bullock County was on the day we got put in the region. And I had to look it up to see that it was in Union Springs. So we're going to be spending some time on the bus this year. So I'll go ahead and start. Of course, I think these two guys are 4-year players for us, started for us the last couple of years. And, I think most everybody knows about Tank and his highlight reels. And he rushed for over 2,000 yards for us last year. Sparks had a great career for us. He actually started as a sophomore for us. He had to miss a couple games sophomore year because I had to fight him to pull him out of a game when he got a concussion. He took a cleat to the to the chin, and his daddy looked at me on the sideline and said, "Would you please talk to him and tell him he's got to go to the hospital?" And so I had to push him on to get him to go to the hospital. But two tough guys, like I said, 4-year guys, and really leaders of our team, do things the right way. Never have to get on these guys. You have to find a reason to, really. You have to find the right button to push sometimes just to have a chance to raise your voice at them. But they do everything the right way, play hard, work hard in the weight room, and two great kids to have in our program.
Trent and Garrett, since y'all on standouts, what are your expectations for the team this season?
Our goal is always the playoffs. Some years you're going to be younger. Well, last year we went through a year where started a lot of young guys, and I say young. There were some of them were juniors, but we had a lot of guys starting for the first time. But regardless, we are always looking for the playoffs. Looking back at the end of the year, there were a couple of games we felt like turnovers cost us the games at the beginning of the season and middle of the season, but came down last year, kind of like you kind of look at it going into the year, and it was our second year in that region, so we kind of looked at it and figured that Cleveland County was going to be the team we had to beat, and they were coming back with about 20 seniors, and it's one of those years where they were physically better than us at the time. We didn't play our best game, but they ended up getting the 4th spot there. So looking back at the end of the year, we kind of felt like there were 2 games we fumbled away, so to speak, and kind of gave away. And but starting as many young guys as we did, you kind of look back after the season and say, I can see why this stuff happened. Well, a lot of those guys are back this year. So we want to, our goal is always going to be the playoffs, but, I've talked to them about, we've just got to go out there and play. Our goal needs to be to win a region championship, but at the end of the day, you got to get in the playoffs because once whoever gets in, every one of those teams are 0-0 when they start. So that's our goal.
Derek Chapman with Central Alabama Standouts. Coach, what are your key focuses for the team this season, considering the competition in your region?
Well, first off, we got to be good tacklers in space. I think when you look at, we've had a really tough region the last 4 years, but there's, I hate to say it, a little more speed in our region this year. And so we've got to be great tacklers in space. That's going to be number one. We've had a lot of guys make big improvements in the weight room, so you would hope that carries over onto the field. But that's got to be number one for us. Number two, we've got to play better on the up front against teams that there's going to be teams that we play that they're a little bit bigger than us. So we've got to play, and I'm talking both sides of the ball. We've got to play better up front, and we're a year older on the defensive line. Last year we had a lot of guys playing that were 10th graders and 9th graders. So we got to play better up there. Offensively, yeah, you want to play better on the offensive line, but we did lose 4 starters. So we've got to, we got to have some guys play good early. But you're just talking about the region in general. We got to tackle. To me, what stands out first is we got to tackle better, and we got to find a way to take great angles and not allow guys with speed to hurt us. Some games you're going to play great competition. They're going to get what they can get, or they're going to get what they can get. You got to limit the big plays and stuff like that. So I'm going to say number one, we got to tackle better in space.
Coach Short, high school football, Alabama. Coach Easley, could you give me an idea, you might not have it yet, but of your returning starters on offense and defense, your roster size, and maybe how many seniors and juniors you have?
Yes, roster size, we're sitting at 60 right now, which is more than we've ever had since I've been there. I actually ran out of extra large helmets yesterday. I was telling you that story back there. I had to order another helmet yesterday. So we're sitting at 60 right now. Returning starters on offense, we lose 4 offensive linemen, so we got 1 coming back there. Quarterback's coming back. Of course, these two guys at the H-back and running backs coming back. So, I mean, talking about guys that's played, and played starter reps, and I'm talking about just the number of reps in a game, we have about 5 coming back on offense and 5 coming back on defense. But we feel good about what we got coming back, and we're going to have more depth. We went into the spring. We haven't done spring the last couple of years. We went into the spring saying we got to get a lot of guys ready to play. And I kind of think I told you this a couple months ago. I remembered coaching against y'all years ago when you were at Heflin and how many guys y'all played early in the year, especially up front on the defensive line. So we have tried to get a lot of guys ready. We did it during the spring game. Weren't really going in trying to win. We're going to do the same thing week 0. We're going to play as many different guys as we can. We've done the same thing in 7-on-7. So we're trying to get more guys reps because we do feel like our depth is better. Even with some good players we lost, we feel like we got more depth this year. So, again, kind of about half our starters back, but with more depth. So sometimes that can make up for – your depth can make up for a starter or two as far as experience goes. Seniors, let's see, how many we got now? I believe we have 10 seniors. Juniors, we've had a few kids come out that didn't play the last couple of years, and it's increased our junior class. I think we got around 15 juniors. Again, some of them had never played before, but still, again, it builds depth. You're talking about a guy that may be able to come in and give you 10, 15 snaps a game. Our biggest class is our sophomore class. We have about 20 or 21 of those, and they've been big. They were big last year. They were our biggest class last year. So we're looking at 60 total right now.
Kicker?
Well, we do have a kicker. We lost our 3-year starter at kicker who had I joked around, Dakota was our 5-sport guy and won, of course, state championships in cross country and track. But we have a kid that played JV for us last year, and Sergio, he's a soccer player for us, and the ball just really explodes off his leg. So he's still learning how to get the feel of the football coming off his foot. But kicked in the spring game, I think he hit 2 or 3 extra points. Hit his field goal. So he's doing a good job. Missed a long one, but he is one of those where I think his old head came up too soon. He hit right in the middle of the ball, and it probably didn't get 10 yards off the ground. So, but he's going to be fine. He's going to do our kickoffs. He was consistently during spring, during our specialty periods, probably putting it somewhere around the 6 or 7. And so, but he was also just coming out of soccer season then, and he was kicking the ball well. So we let him start kicking a little bit because we try not to overdo it early in the year with those legs.
Coach, I can't think of anybody that reclassification stung more than Munford. Talk a little bit about, people don't realize how much money that change actually probably cost your program. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, the first day we came out, we were in the 9-team region, but we had a lot of local rivalries. And we were looking at it saying, man, these are going to be some good gates. Still a tough region, but it was going to be good gates. And that's what you want as a coach. You want some good gates you want people that's going to bring in a crowd, that's going to create a good atmosphere, and you have good games. And then 24 hours later, getting shipped south, and us and Cleveland County both, we're in the same boat. Getting shipped south, it's the difference in traveling 30 minutes and 2.5 hours. And, you start talking about, for us, for example, when we leave to go to Bullitt County, I've got to pay, I've got to pay for subs for every coach that's got to leave early. I got to pay for subs for a bus driver that coaches something else. So I got to pay for his sub. There's just so much money that goes into it, and not the best time in our country to have a lot of excess cash, and so people just don't have it. So it's going to affect us. We've kind of looked at the budget a little bit over the next 2 years, and we're expecting travel expenses to go up about 30 to 40%, which is hard enough to pay for travel as it is. And so we expect a big rise there, because not only with that, if you can't be at your school, let's say 3:05 to 3:15 to each pregame meal, now you're eating on the road. So now you're spending more money eating on the road. So there's just a lot of factors that go into it, and financially, that's going to be the biggest. I think the biggest area is that change in regions is going to hurt. Is going to be the financial side of it, because it's going to cost a lot more to travel.
Coach, Namath Pitts with East Alabama Now. Coach, talking about the gate a little bit, you start the year with Lincoln, the big rivalry game. So that'll be a pretty great gate to start the season. Talk about moving that game from kind of later in the season to early in the season, and then for the players, talk about that rivalry and what that game means to you personally.
I'll let them go ahead and go, and then I'll finish up.
That game, I feel like that game means a lot to us. That's probably one of the funnest games we play. I feel like we got to lock in on the region games because them are the more important games. But Lincoln, it's a very fun game to play, and I feel like we should lock in really well in that game, and that's a good win to have under your belt for us.
It's a big game, for sure. It's just a rivalry, but we start with them region games, go to the playoffs. That's because there's just like one game out the season. We got other games to focus on to further propel our season, to do better.
Yeah, and both of them kind of echoed what I preached to them about non-region games, but especially the Lincoln game because it's such a big rivalry. It's a fun game, and if you get a win in that game, man, it's just fun to have that win for either side because both sides enjoy that game a lot. But for us, I try to preach to our guys, and it doesn't matter if we're playing Lincoln or we're playing a region game. Don't let the 10% affect the 90%. We don't ever want to let one game affect the other 9, or if, depending on what point of the season we're in, it may be the other 4 or 5. So, we don't want to. Yes, I always tell the kids, let's go have fun in this game. Let's go win it, but let's go have fun and enjoy this. It's always a good atmosphere. It's always crowds are into it. So that kind of gets you ready. If you make the playoffs, it gets you ready for a playoff game, and that's all. We've always tried to use the Lincoln game for that, to prepare us for a playoff game if we got in the playoffs. So and that's really how we look at it. And of course, both of them kind of echoed that. It's fun, but at the same time, it's a non-region game, and our focus entirely for the season as a whole has to be we got to do whatever we need to do to get in the playoffs. But as far as having it week 1, not ideal for some people, but the truth of the matter is when the regions first came out the first day, we were in a 9-team region, and which eliminated the ability to play a week 5 game, a non-region week 5 game. So me and Coach Zedeker had to go ahead. We went ahead and booked it week 1, and I think he had his week 5 booked the very next day. So by the time they changed the regions, there really wasn't any changing.
Coach, with the distance in the region, is it going to be easier if you get off to a good start, maybe win against Lincoln, win that first region game? Is it going to be easier to fly a little bit under the radar in this region because it's very spread out and the teams are in very different media markets?
They are, but nowadays with every single movement you make on Huddle and social media, and these kids will start talking about somebody that's, we may be in week 2 or 3 and they're seeing highlights of somebody we're playing week 8 or 9 now. There's really no hiding. If you're good, everybody pretty much knows you're good early in the year. If you're struggling, everybody knows you're struggling. But it is big, though. I mean, we want to get off to a good start. And I go back to what we talked about earlier with the speed in the region. We open up with some speed as far as region play goes. And, Tallahassee, even though they're moving down, I think, from 5A, they started a ton of young kids last year. They got a new coach in. Got the coach that was at Booker T. Washington last year who ended up putting Hanley out of the playoffs. So they're going to be a lot better just being a year older. So we're going to have to be ready to play. And that's another good reason for us. It's another good reason to be able to play Lincoln week 1 is we're going to see that same type of speed week 1 that we're going to see really most of our region now. So I like doing that. From that aspect, I like playing Lincoln week 1 and being able to roll right into Tallahassee, who's going to be a very similar team speed-wise.
Coach Bruce Carr, B101 Sylacauga. Excuse me. This question is for you, and then I got a question for the 2 players that are here today. Coach, offensively and defensively, what can not only your fans expect out of Munford this year, but anybody else that may be interested in your program? What about offensively and defensively for your team?
Well, I'll start defensively. I think a lot of our guys are going to be a year older, year stronger, year bigger, and going to see more guys play and more guys. We're going to be able to rotate in a few more guys up front than we have in the past. We probably got more linebacker depth. When's the last time you've seen that many guys in linebacker individual ever?
No,
we have more depth, and so see a few more guys playing. But I hope defensively you're going to see us tackle in space better, take great angles. We kind of started talking about it a little bit with with the kids. We'll really start harping on it the first day of practice. But, there's going to be some non-negotiables with us. And I try not to use excuses for my kids, but at the same time, we had so many guys out there that had never touched a varsity field when we got on the field last year that as a coach, when you realistically look at it, those kind of kids are going to make mistakes. But, there's going to be some non-negotiables, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit with the kids, how, we've got to learn there's just some things we can't let happen on the field. Jumping on, and there's just no reason, especially when the ball's right over you. There's no reason for a defensive lineman, especially in those, to jump off sides. You're looking at the ball; it's right there. But little stuff like that, as far as taking angles, getting in your correct gap, stuff like that. We got to do a better job of that this year. Offensively, what can you expect? You can expect this guy over here to carry the ball a lot. But even then, I think last year averaged 23.5 carries a game, which is not a lot when you look at some other places. I remember one year Flomaton's quarterback, I think he carried it 42 times in the state championship game, and that was normal for them. But you're going to see him carry the ball. We've also got some depth there as well. We got another senior, A.J. Denson, plays running back as well. You'll see them in the backfield together at times. So we got a little bit of depth there, but we've also, having a quarterback last year he's a year older now. And so we need more out of our pass game. And I've really harped on the receivers this summer. We'll continue it when we get into August. They've got to play better. We've got to run routes better. We've got to get separation better. We've got to catch the ball better. And I think we will. Again, year older, more experience right there. So that's the two things, we've got to see it. We've got to see. You're going to see, obviously, him carry the ball, but we've got to see increased. We got to see better execution in the pass game. And it was one of those years where I try to protect our quarterback as much as possible. Anytime you throw a young quarterback in there, and BJ was a sophomore last year, at least in my eyes, I'm going to be careful with him and try to protect him as much as I can. And that comes with play calling and scheming. But, this year he's had a full year starting now. There's really not anything that he doesn't know or can't run in our offense. So, we need to see in the pass game, we need to see that part of our offense be, I guess, just, be more consistent and execute better.
This one's for the players, guys. You're both seniors, right?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that right? Okay. You've had Coach Easley now as your coach for 4 years on varsity. What's it like playing for him?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Playing for Coach Easley, it's been very fun. I think coming in into summer workouts, Coach Easley is going to push you to be the best player you can be. And he's going to make sure, when you leave and you graduate, he's going to make sure you're growing into be the best husband, man you can be when you leave there. And it's been great playing for him for the past 4 years.
Yeah, it's more than just football with him. He pushed us to be better. He taught us, he gave us some speeches about being a father, saying it's the best thing you could be in life. And I always, think about that, as I leave practice, some workouts, leave school for the day, think about that speech and, how it affects me, and, how, I'm pushing for more than just football in my life. I want to be something better. I want this to be the best thing that I do in life. I want to grow to be somebody, lead, be a father, be greater things.
And I'll echo that. These two listen, apparently, because I have given those speeches a lot. But we do. Look, these guys right here, and we got a lot of kids like that on this year's team. They do what you ask them to do. You push them. They accept the challenge. Because we're not easy on our kids, and we set high standards. But, we got a big group that's like that this year. But especially these two, they do what you ask them to do. And also, but when you see kids like this, you got to give credit to their parents. Okay, and I tell a quick story about your mom. I don't know if she wants me to tell this or not, but Tank, I told him I was going to order number 0 this year, and Tank was like, "Hey, I want to switch to 0." And I guess he went home and told his mom that. Mom said, "No, you're not, because I've got shirts with number 3 on it, and I'm not buying more shirts, so you're going to stay at number 3." And he did. There was no argument, and he did. But that gives you an example of what type of parent, what type of parent he's got. And, I say this. I said it about Sylvester, and I said it about Kyler. And this one has probably dealt with it too. This is a kid that could have left us, okay? He could have left us and went to bigger schools the past couple of years and didn't. And says a lot about him. Says a lot about him, and it says a lot about his parents. And, he's dealt with it too. In fact, I remember talking to his dad. I told you how I used to describe him at the banquet last year when he was getting the defensive awards. He has no care for his body on the field. Like he's full speed. He's going to hit you. He doesn't worry. I mean, he's not out there making any business decisions. He has no care for his body. But I gave that story early on about, that Childersburg game his sophomore year. He took and it was I've never seen anybody fall like this, but just at the right angle, he took a cleat right here under the helmet, and he was knocked silly for a few minutes, but he did not want to leave the game. And of course, we had, trainers had called his parents down on the field, and I'm coaching and walking back over there and coaching and walking back over there, and I walk over there, and his dad's like, Coach, he will not leave in the ambulance. Would you please tell him he's got to go? And I was like, hey, you got to go. He's like, oh, man, but he didn't want to leave, but such good parents. And like I said, he's another kid that had ties to another community close to us that could have left and didn't. And his little brother is the same way. His little brother's going into 8th grade for us. And I know because his dad told me the story when he came to get you stuff that after the Childersburg game, there were some coaches at another school who was like, hey, won't you bring Hayden over here? And, he was talking about his little brother. Won't you bring him over here and play with us? It's going on everywhere. So to see guys like this and stick with it for 4 years at a small school, we don't have a lot of resources. I think Sylvester Smith described it perfectly recently. We got a dirt practice field. We don't have a very nice weight room. It ain't very big, but we got kids that want to stay there and work and represent that M, and that's what's special.
Derek Chapman with Central Alabama Standouts, and this question is for Coach and the players. How do you prepare mentally or physically for a big game?
I want to hear their reactions first.
Preparing for a game, I feel like it's all going to start on Monday. Like most people say, they're going to start like Friday, listen to music. I feel like it starts on Monday because you're going to practice that whole week for that game. I feel like you got to come in Monday locked in, get a full week of practice because you're going to practice how you play. So if you come in Monday, practice all week, I feel like you're going to play good, and then Friday get locked in. I don't really have other than practicing the way I'm going to play. That's how I feel like when I come in Monday and practice throughout the week, I feel like that's how I'm going to play. If I can have a good week of practice and the whole team can have a good week of practice, if they can come in Monday and practice the whole week like that, I feel like we'll have a good turnout that Friday night.
As Hunter said, it starts that Monday. You come in, you got to focus on that team, watching film, practicing. You have to give your 100%, or that Friday you're not going to be able to play at your best capabilities. You're going to go out, you're going to be sluggish. You're going to be ready, you're going to be prepared for what's coming. Then Thursdays, the ice baths, getting your body ready, walkthroughs, all that stuff goes into Friday. If you don't prepare right, you're not going to be ready.
Yeah, and these two guys said it, the years we've had, and I would say really, you go point to a game or two every year as a coach, and you're like, man, we were really locked in, ready to play that week. It all started with good practice on Monday. And sometimes I've had a year, one of the best games we've played in the last 5 years was on a short week. We were playing on Thursday, and we were so beat up, we could not dress out in pads because we couldn't have any contact that week because we went helmets and shorts Monday, helmets and shorts Tuesday. And but I say all that, the kids were locked in. And it was one of those times, and I'm not going to mention the game, but I walked in, and I started to say something to the kids, and I didn't really have to say anything. And I walked out there, and I told the coaches, I said, I didn't have to. I said a few seconds, but I didn't have to say anything. The guys were ready to play. And we went out there and played our best game of the year. And so, again, like I said, it starts on Monday. I've tried to preach, I try to preach nutrition and sleep. It's a lot more in the spotlight than it was, say, 10 years ago. But I try to preach, that aspect of it. We protein during the season. We feed them. We can't afford to feed them very nice stuff. We'll fix peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on Wednesday and do protein shakes on Wednesday. We've proteined probably most every day this summer after workouts, but we try to get a lot of protein in them and replace that. We take tons of Gatorade and Propel. Pretty much almost every day we're getting a Gatorade in them either before practice or after practice. If it's not a protein day, if it's protein day, we'll get it in before practice. But we try to physically prepare their bodies. Hopefully, mentally, you hope as a coach they are. In today's world with all the distractions, I'm telling you, I'm glad there wasn't all the distractions they have now when we were in school playing. So I don't see how they focus, but we got a lot of kids that do.
Coach Short, high school football, Alabama players. I hope you understand how special it is for you to be here today representing your team. So I would like for you to Tell us what it means to you to be able to be here as a senior representing the Munford Lions.
I believe it shows how Coach Easley looks at us. He looks at us as leaders, and that he wants us to go out there and set an example for the younger players, and that he's got we've got his trust. That's how I would put that.
It feels good knowing that, he can let us do this, to come out here and talk, for the team, for the community. This is a big thing, like we're in the spotlight now, getting more, be more out there, It just feels like he has trust, and we're leaders of the team.
It's a good way of putting it. Good way of putting it.
And remember, when you graduate and become a has-been, I'm sure he still does the same thing too. You'll be able to come back, especially being leaders now. You'll always be a Munford Lion, and you'll be able to talk to those younger kids and put it over them.
Yeah. That's big. I try to preach community and serve it and giving back to your community as much as you can and loving the program when you leave.
Michael, I don't know how active you are in social media, but you've certainly heard about the post that Sylvester made about what it means to play at home. And it really moved me to the point that we're going to actually publish it in our magazine this year. But can you talk about that a little bit and just what it means to have a kid like him still preaching to the youngsters?
It's special. I love that kid to death. He called me the other day. We usually talk at least once a week, not once every 2 weeks, but it's special, and I think the biggest thing, he's playing in the SEC right now, but to watch the maturation process with him, watch him mature over these years and grow up. I ran into one of the Auburn's coaches down there in Montgomery at the clinic last week and walked up to him, and he grabbed me and hugged me, and I said, "How's our son doing?" He said, our son is doing great. And he said he's mature and he's representing our university the right way. He's working hard. He texted me 2 nights ago. I meant to tell you this. He texted me 2 nights ago and said he got 525 on squat. I started to tell him, "Hey, you're getting close to Tank's range," but I was going to let him. I let him enjoy that. I let him enjoy his time. But it is special, and because Sylvester is a guy that for multiple years had multiple coaches at other schools calling him, trying to get him to leave Munford, and I think I read the post. Somebody screenshotted it and sent it to me, and I think to sum it up best, he was honest because, you go through life and there's decisions, whether it's, whether it's your job or whether it's your marriage or whatever the case is friendships, whatever, that you do think about the negative sometimes. And, sometimes the negative stuff is right in front of you, and you have to kind of wade through that to see the positive. But, he was able to do that, and he was honest in there. He was like, was there times that I thought about leaving? Yes. And I think a lot of kids nowadays probably see the shine and the glitter of other stuff and think, yeah, man, that looks nice, or that's an easier way, or whatever the case is. But it's special. And I'm going to tell you something. Sylvester gives back a lot. I can remember having an argument with him last year during the fall. He's wanting to buy the team the pregame meal. And I said, "No, you put your money in the bank." And he was like, "No, Coach, I want to buy the meal." And I wouldn't let him, but I turned around, a month or two later, and he'd bought all the teachers coffee and donuts or something one morning. And he's giving back. He appreciates his community, because the thing about him is he really appreciates people that invest in him. And I hope all kids are like that. There's so many kids, and these two are very appreciative of what they have. And there's some kids you see take things for granted, but I try to preach to kids, hey, whatever you do when you leave here, love your program, and support your program. And that's one of the last things I tell the seniors after the last game of the year is, hey, this is your program. It's not my program. It's not the principal's program. This is your program. You played here. You support this program through good times and bad. You support this program as you go on in your future, and take pride in it, because hopefully you learn something from it. I don't care if it's football, but hopefully you learn something from it. But we're very appreciative of Sylvester. And another one, Kyler Gibson's at Troy. He's running with the ones at Troy right now. This will be his 3rd year up there, and he's very supportive and is vocally supportive. Talks to the guys when he comes back and works out. So we got some guys at the next level that's really they do a good job of promoting our school, and promoting our program when they're away from it now. They're in college and they're becoming young adults.